Okay, so negotiating. Let's say they're giving you an offer. You need to know yourself, because you've changed from when you first started looking at positions to the end of all this interview process. Do you have the same priorities? Or the same thing? Know what your deal breakers are, basically. Are there things that you just can't accept, no matter how good the offer is? What conditions are most important to you? When you're at the point of making a decision, you really have to ask yourself, would I be happy there? Is this a good place to start my career? Because these days, although the department's assumption may be that you'll stay forever, people move around in academia much more than they did even 10 years ago. Will I be able to build a life here? This is only a one-year appointment, because some of you may be applying for shorter-term positions, but will it help me to springboard my career to somewhere else? A verbal offer isn't an offer. You need the details in writing. So it's nice to get a phone call saying we're going to be sending you an offer, but until it's in writing, it's not for sure. Try to cover all of the most important issues, and I have a slide in a minute that just outlines what those would be, but salary, benefits, teaching and research, etc. Know the salaries, and here you're in a bit of an advantageous position with public universities because most of them have to disclose, so Google can be your friend. In some cases, certainly all the salaries of the senior people will be online. The Faculty Association, though, at most universities will give you whatever information they can if you're a potential future colleague. Just check first to make sure that the president of the Faculty Association wasn't on the search committee, because then you might want to talk to someone else in the office. I think that the Canadian Association of University Teachers guide, which I have here somewhere, it's online though, they have a guide to negotiating your first contract or your first academic position, and it has some very good information, and I would urge you all to take a look at it. If you're looking in the US, the American Association of University Professors has a salary survey. Know the cost of living and your own particular living costs. And I'll come in a minute to why I think that's so essential. Human resources can also be a good source of information confidentially. So if you want information on their policies that you can't get off the web on, let's say, maternity leave or parental leave, it's a good thing to call human resources about. Also, some universities have a faculty relocation or a faculty recruitment office that you can call. Most importantly, as reading to put yourself to sleep at night, read the collective agreement or other form of framework agreement between the Faculty Association and the university from which you've received the offer. It will have very useful information. I spent some time earlier in May reading many of them from across Canada. They are good sleeping material, but they contain stuff that you need to know. What's negotiable? I actually really thought that only salary, maybe spousal support, relocation expenses were negotiable, and those ones definitely are. But in reading the CAUT guide, they said everything up to and including, in some cases, rank is negotiable. I don't think you'll find rank negotiable at very many places with which I'm familiar, but certainly salary is negotiable. My advice would be to ask for what you need, because you don't want to give off that sense of entitlement, but you do want to get what it is you need to make life work for you in that city. And I think if you phrase it that way, it's much less offensive than phrasing it as, I'm the best thing since sliced bread and you should be paying me more. It's the reason why you should be paying me more. They already know you're good. You don't have to convince them of that. They wouldn't have made you the offer if you weren't good. But they need to know that you need certain things in order to make life in that community work. I said I had a list of the things that should be in the offer. If you've got experience as a junior faculty member somewhere else, there should be something in this offer about credit to tenure or sabbatical. There should also be something in the offer or in an addendum to the offer if they've promised you support with spousal employment. Now, where departments have flexibility is they have flexibility around one-time only costs, like your relocation expenses, like startup costs. They have flexibility around how much teaching sometimes you do in your first few years, depending on the collective agreement. They often have less flexibility around salary because salaries are published in many cases, and because they have to look at what your salary does to the salary as it fits in with the salaries of the rest of the people in the department. Having said that, the one benefit that's most important to you is salary, because the way that faculty salaries are structured, if you start out with a lower salary, it's cumulative. You stay lower. Some universities have a way of providing you with an anomalous increase to compare you with colleagues at a similar stage midway through your career, but I wouldn't count on that, because often you have to go out and get a competitive offer, which is kind of an ingenuous thing to do in order to get that increase. So I think you're better off to try and get it at the beginning. Having said that, it may not be possible. So let's say you're lucky enough to have gotten multiple interviews and multiple offers. You might be forced to delay giving your response to an offer from university number one. You can delay your response to an offer you can delay your response to an offer legitimately by a couple of weeks maximum, 2 to 3 weeks, but not more, and only if they agree to that. If you're asking for a delay of more than 2 weeks, make it clear in the language that you use with the chair that you're being very respectful, but that this is a really important life decision for you, that you are weighing a couple of offers. You don't have to disclose the location of the other offers, although they may ask you to. And I think you always have to be sensitive to this sense of entitlement, because even though you want to delay, they had other people on their short list. You were their first choice. If you were their unanimous first choice, you won't know that, but it probably buys you a little bit more time. If number 2 on the list was almost as good as you are, that's going to shorten the time frame, because they're not going to want to risk losing number 2 if you eventually say no. And again, as I said before, academia is a very small place. If you're going to withdraw from a search or turn down an offer, do it with respect. Do it in a timely fashion. Do it knowing that someday you may want these people to be fans of yours. So really think about the way in which you don't chicken out. I've been involved in a couple of searches where candidates have just never gotten back to the department. They were just too afraid to sort of follow through in the end. It was clear that the deadline had elapsed, and I think that it really damaged their reputation. And who knows, they may be up for a grant. The chair of that search committee may be on the panel that's assessing the grant applications. Could come back to bite them in the end. And when you do decline, thank them on the phone and then follow up in writing.